My name is Mackenzie. My family and I have been attending River of Life Church for 9 months now. We started coming in June. In November 2020, after the birth of my second daughter, I was diagnosed with a rare birth injury called a rectal vaginal fistula. At first, I was really embarrassed, but the doctor reassured me that it was very small and that the surgery that was required would be quick and that I'd be back to work in no time. After I had the surgery, it became clear that that was not the case. I ended up having 6 total surgeries in under the span of 2 years. With each surgery, my symptoms became progressively worse. Through the process, I grew up in the church. I've loved the Lord my whole life. I really believed and had faith that God could heal my body. As I would pray in faith, I became more and more discouraged. I would get my hopes up for each surgery, and then they would be dashed when it became clear that the surgery did not work. When we moved to Montana, I found a new surgeon in Helena. Either my body would heal on its own, or I was in line for a very intense medical procedure. I would have to fly across the country, and it would be a major surgery. During this time, River of Life was putting on a women's retreat, and I signed up. My prayer going to the retreat was that I would get to know other women at the church, because I really hadn't gotten to know anyone yet. My prayer also was that I would have some time and space to meet with God. As a busy mom, sometimes it's hard to feel like you can get away and really have intimacy with God, and I was craving that. The title of the women's retreat was called Sweeter After Difficulties, so I had anticipation that the Holy Spirit would be speaking to me that weekend. When I walked into the room, I could feel the presence of God, and we began with a song that had the phrase, "You're never gonna let me down," us singing that to God. And I didn't sing those words. I didn't know if I believed that anymore, because if I was being honest, I had felt let down. I had heard a sermon about the woman with the issue of blood grabbing onto the hem of Jesus's garment. And the pastor had said, if you need healing, all you have to do is reach out and touch the hem of his garment. I remember telling a friend after that sermon, I feel like I have both hands wrapped around his garment and he's not even stopping. That's how I felt in that moment with my repeated disappointments. The speaker at the conference talked about trust. She talked about how when we trust God, it's not necessarily about an outcome, but it's about trusting who he is. And intimacy with God was restored at that conference. When I was honest with the Lord, I could see how he had never let me down. It wasn't that the outcome that I wanted to happen happened, but that he was with me, and he was never gonna leave me or forsake me. But he very much cared, and he wasn't indifferent toward me, but he loved me deeply. That was really profound for me to be reminded in that moment. Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. I saw that my hope was being deferred because my hope was in an outcome. I wanted God to do something for me. But if I put my hope in him, then my hope wasn't going to be deferred. Then my longing would be fulfilled in his presence. At the end of the conference, I was flying high. Truly, I was in a place where if I have to live the rest of my life with an ileostomy, I'm gonna be okay. If nothing ever changes in my situation, I'm gonna be okay. And I knew that regardless of the outcome, that God was with me. But right at the end of the conference, when I felt like I was good, I don't need anything else, somebody came up to me and gave me a piece of paper, and it said, "You will overcome this trial." That gave me just that little bit of hope that I needed to see a future out of the physical pain and physical issues I was experiencing. When I got back home, I was driving to an appointment. It had been 3 months, and I was gonna go get the follow-up. I was driving and praying, and I remember my prayer. I was still in this headspace of praying for strength, and I told the Lord, "I'm probably going to have this really hard surgery. Please be with me. Give me courage for it." And the Holy Spirit interrupted me, and he said, "Mackenzie, please don't put words in my mouth." I laughed, and then I just cranked up the worship music. I surrendered everything to God again, and I let him know that I was not going to put him in a box, that he could come through for me in my situation however he wanted to. When I got to that doctor's appointment, I had the exam, and the surgeon said, "Mackenzie, you're healing. I don't see a fistula here anymore." And then she said, "No doctor did this. Your own body did this." As I drove home, I was just overwhelmed with gratitude that God came through for me in this amazing way. I was able to have the ileostomy reversed and move forward with my life. At moments in that journey, it had felt like that was gonna be my whole life, that I should just get used to this. But that wasn't what God had for me. And now we're pregnant with our 3rd child. To anyone that's going through a difficult trial right now, what I would encourage you with is this. I read a devotional at some point in the midst of all of my surgeries, in the fog of everything. And it was talking about chariots. It said, "Trials in life come at you fast like a chariot. You don't know it's coming, and all of a sudden it's there. You can let it crush you, or you can get in the chariot and let God use that trial as a vehicle to take you into his purposes." So I would say, pray for healing, ask God for it, but also God will give us endurance in suffering. He'll give us the strength we need in the process. And he can use anything for his glory. He can use the worst things and turn them around for his good. But I would also say, if you're in a place where you're feeling crushed right now by your circumstance, it is just too heavy for you. You're like, that chariot already hit me and I'm lying in the road right now. I would encourage you with Psalm 34:18 that says, "God is near to the brokenhearted and he saves those that are crushed in spirit." He loves you so much, and he has a plan for you, and he has purpose even in what you're going through.